4 years ago, George, an elderly widower with a big heart, made a life-changing decision to adopt 6 girls who were considered unwanted by many. These girls, each with their own challenging past and deemed difficult to place in permanent homes, found a loving father in George. But it wasn't until 4 years later that George uncovered the profound reason behind his decision to bring these specific girls into his life. But before we start, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The adoption of 6 young girls was not George's intention when he walked into the orphanage that fateful day. The elderly widower was actually there to do some volunteering work as he had recently retired, but did not feel like he had done enough to give back. George was tasked to do some small maintenance jobs for the orphanage, and he was very happy to oblige. He would have rather spent some time with the children, but this also gave him the opportunity to connect with some of them. George was replacing a couple of planks and changing some light bulbs, and a group of 6 young girls came to stand beside him. They were looking very interested in what he was doing. George enjoyed having them around and tried to entertain them at the same time he was doing tasks, and the workers at the orphanage noticed this as well. On top of that, the girls started asking them when George was coming again and even called him Dad on occasion. And during this period, George could not help but get more and more curious about the story of these girls. After a bit of hesitation, the director of the orphanage decided to share the story with George. He explained that they had all gotten the girls in their care at exactly the same time by somebody. The director came to find him later. She came bringing good news. George could adopt the girls. George gathered the 6 girls around him, a warm smile spreading across his face. "I have some wonderful news," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "I'm going to be your new dad." The girls looked at each other in disbelief, then back at George, their eyes widening with joy. In an instant, the room erupted with laughter, cheers, and excited chatter as the girls hugged George and each other, their faces alight with happiness. The day the girls arrived at George's house was one filled with nervous energy. As they stepped through the front door, each girl took in her new surroundings with a mix of curiosity and excitement. In the following days, the girls began to settle into their new life. As the days passed, George began to notice how cramped his house felt with 6 energetic girls bustling around. This realization prompted George to think creatively about rearranging and possibly expanding their living space to better accommodate his new large family. The financial implications of raising 6 children soon hit George hard. He found himself poring over his budget late into the night, trying to find ways to stretch his pension further. George began to establish routines that accommodated schooling, playtime, chores, and family activities. George's lifestyle underwent a significant transformation as he adapted to the needs of the girls. He found himself engaging in activities he had never considered before, from playing dress-up to reading bedtime stories. As time passed, George became more attuned to each girl's unique personality and needs. As the girls grew, so did the complexity of their needs. George found himself navigating new territories like school challenges, evolving friendships, and the emotional ups and downs of growing up. Amidst the daily hustle, George often found himself confronting fears about the future. He worried about what would happen to the girls if his health failed, or if he could no longer care for them. Despite the overwhelming challenges, George's determination to provide the best for the girls never wavered. One quiet evening, as George was sifting through his emails, one particular message caught his attention, sending a jolt through him. The subject line hinted at undisclosed information about the girls. With a growing sense of apprehension, he opened the email. The words he read were shocking, suggesting a hidden truth about the girls' past that he had never known or suspected. He reread the email several times, each time hoping he had misunderstood, but the words remained the same. Determined to uncover the truth and find clarity in the midst of confusion, George resolved to confront the orphanage director. With a heavy heart, George gathered the girls and set out for the orphanage. As they approached the orphanage, George braced himself for the potential impact of the truths he might uncover. George found the director and without hesitation demanded the full story behind the email. The director hesitated, her expression revealing the conflict within. George's insistence, however, left no room for evasion. Under the weight of George's persistent questioning, the director began to crack. Each revelation was more surprising than the last as the director continued. A shocking truth about the girls' origins within the orphanage came to light. George left the orphanage in a daze, the director's words echoing in his mind. He struggled to come to terms with the unsettling revelations about the girls' past. The drive home was a blur as he attempted to process the magnitude of what he had learned. Amidst his own turmoil, George's thoughts turned to the girls. He worried about the impact this truth would have on them, their sense of identity and their emotional well-being. They were innocent in this complex web of events, and he knew he had to protect them from any further harm. Back at home, George grappled with feelings of anger and betrayal. He felt let down by the orphanage and pained by the deceit that had surrounded the girls' adoption. George knew he had to talk to the girls to start difficult but necessary conversations. These talks were filled with reassurance and love as he gently began to unravel the complexity of their past, always reinforcing that their family bond was about more than biology. Despite the turbulent revelations, George's commitment to the girls never wavered. He reassured them of his unwavering love and commitment, holding them close and affirming that they would always be his daughters, no matter what. The girls, each in their own way, struggled to comprehend the news of their origins. George watched them closely, his heart aching at their confusion, and did his best to provide comfort and reassurance in this tumultuous time. As they navigated this new reality, the dynamics between George and the girls began to evolve. There were moments of uncertainty and questions that were hard to answer. Yet through this challenging period, a deeper understanding and respect developed between them. They learned to communicate more openly and support each other in new ways, adapting to their changing family landscape with resilience and love. The story concludes with George and the girls embracing a future filled with love and promise. They looked ahead not as individuals linked by biological ties, but as a family united by deeper bonds. George, with a heart full of hope and love, knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, their journey a testament to the enduring power of love and family.